And welcome back to Mobile Mornings on FM Talk 106.5. And it's a great time, just like we have every time they come in. Desi Tobias with Tobias and Comer Law in for another edition of Law 251. Good morning, Desi. Thanks so much for coming by. And yeah, just pull that microphone up real close to you there. And thanks for coming by to see us again today.
Good morning, Dalton. Great to see you again as always.
And it's a great time of year, too. And I talked to, now that we're rotating three of you in and out, and I've gotten to know Lacey so well, I talk to you maybe every 3 months now instead of every other month, but it's still good seeing you any time of the year, especially this time of year, though, because I know how much you love not just living in Mobile, but the extracurricular activities that we get down here because of our closeness to the water. And the maritime industry is such a big deal here. I could go on, but it's the time of year. Get out on the water, have some fun, be with family, soak up some rays. It's one of the greatest things about living down here on the Gulf Coast.
We're so lucky here in this area with all the abundant water resources that we have, and there's so much of it. It's beautiful to look at all year, but there's something about that time, this time late spring, that boat that maybe you hadn't seen in a while, is calling to you. You got to get in it, and there is so much, too, just with the recreational opportunities, but so much of our work, our commerce, all of that revolves around the maritime industry and the water.
It does, and you've talked before about your love for everything maritime down here in our neck of the woods, and you've been so connected for decades to that lifestyle. And we will get into, because coming up later this month, National Safety Boating Week, and you guys have had a focus on that for years. We'll get into some of the tips, some of the ideas for being as safe as possible out there on the water, and great videos you have on your website. But let's talk about something that Tobias and Comer Law took part in not that long ago, just here recently, the blessing of the fleet. And that's just looking at your posts at Tobias and Comer Law on your Facebook page, looked like a really, really fun time.
I've always loved that. We've tried to sponsor it before, but it's such a unique thing. When you talk about the unique things that Mobile has, such as Mardi Gras, such as the Senior Bowl, and the Blessing of the Fleet is one of them. And go to Winsel's and get a flavor for what the Bayou La Batterie is like. And it's still like that today. It still has that tradition and the sense to it. But the Blessing of the Fleet is something that they've done since like 1949 down there. And it goes back to European traditions where they always, at the start of every fishing season, would have a prayer and have a ceremony to hopefully bring back the mariners safe with a lot of fish. And that's what we participated in recently. There's actually, the bishop will be there on Sunday. There's a land parade, and then there's a boat parade with all the vessels, shrimping boats festooned, and they go by the Archbishop's stand there, and he blesses them. But on Saturday, the day before the actual blessing, we participated in a gumbo cook-off as part of the festivities that they had there. We were one of 6 entrants. We came in third. We had our whole firm there, and it was a lot of fun. We got to meet a lot of people, and we actually had some pretty good gumbo, actually.
Yeah,
so
it sounds like it. And what better thing to have a cook-off for than gumbo down in the bayou? And I understand you have a bit of a cook, chef ringer on your team, too, there in Mariah. Sounds like she cooked up a real good pot of gumbo.
That's true. She's our office manager, and she loves to cook. I think she would like to get out of the law business maybe and be a cook or run a restaurant. People ask us that. Are y'all a restaurant? No, we're a law firm. But we always have lunches there at the office, and it was like a week of labor. It smelled like a KFC franchise almost. You could smell the roux cooking and the flour. But it was a lot of fun. We enjoyed that. And again, that brings us back to what we are here locally, and what it makes us distinct and unique and really special is what we have, the connection here to the water and the maritime industry.
And I guess the quickest way, other than riding around with Desi Tobias for a couple days down here, quickest way to kind of attune yourself to how much that means to us, the industry and recreationally being out on the water, what it means to this region. The Maritime Museum is, and I still have to make, I really need to make the trip, but at this point now I'm kind of waiting for them to get some of this new stuff in there. And I know Sean Sullivan talks with John Sledge quite a bit, the historian who now plays a role there at the Maritime Museum. and they've got all these plans kind of in the works. It's a really cool place to check out and really get a feel for Mobile as far as the waterways go.
It is. It's under new management. There's a new director there who I've gotten to know, very talented. There are a lot of great plans for the museum. John Sledge is the historian there, and nobody knows more about the water. I think John plays a role there on a daily, weekly basis about the water. And John, of course, has written books about the Mobile River. He wrote a book about the Mobile connection with Cuba, Havana. He's also written a book about the Gulf of Mexico. But and I understand that they're having a Jimmy Buffett exhibit that's coming, which is really going to be interesting for Mobile, again showing our connection to the water and to maritime things.
It's really cool, and I can't wait to check it out, and especially with that Jimmy Buffett exhibit. That ought to be really, really awesome. And speaking of the maritime industry, we've talked more before, and people could check out all of our podcasts from the past, but we went into detail about maritime law and working working jobs out on boats, and what Tobias and Comer Law, some of the cases you've worked there. But let's talk about not just safety while you're out working on the water, but a lot of recreational boaters that are out week in and week out. And the end of this month, towards the end of the month, I should say, a pretty important week, and that's National Boating Safety Week. And just a good, week-long reminder that things can go wrong out there on the water, but fortunately there are a lot of ways for you to prevent some of those things from going wrong.
Yeah, that is National Boating Safety Week. It's a really good reminder at the start of the season. There's certain checklists that you always have to look through and make sure that you have, particularly at the beginning of the season. We actually, on our website, we have a video of an actual stop. Brian Comer was in a boat, and we
Now this was all planned, right?
It was planned.
Okay, yeah.
No, it was a demonstrative thing
Yeah.
Of what the Marine Patrol will be looking for when they come to check out a boat. Of course, the importance of wearing life jackets, things like that. Know the state boating laws. And make sure your boat's prepared with the fire extinguishers, the horns, things like that. Know the boating rules, which side to go on, which side not to go on. And all the time I see in what I do, there are reckless drivers out there just like they are, on the roadways. And there is a specific body of law, particularly if you're injured in terms of getting any kind of recovery. If you're driving recklessly or driving while intoxicated, the Alabama State Marine Police will pull you over and charge you with an Alabama violation of an Alabama code or an Alabama statute. But if you're injured, that generally falls under the maritime law, which is something that we do. Just the say a boat runs into you, you're injured, we look to the maritime law for what your source of recovery will be.
And we've seen, of course, doing the morning show, we've seen all kinds of accidents and injuries over the years, and you have way more than we have with people coming to you. But while it doesn't happen as often, we have seen boats collide with injuries. Often a lot of the boat accidents we see are someone running up on the jetties or flipping their boat, acting completely recklessly. But there are and have been accidents where someone's been under the influence and just straight up ran into another boat who was doing it the right way.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's instances like that. You never know what's going to happen out there, and that's why you have to be so careful just to be watch your surroundings and who's coming at you. And you can see if you're in a vessel from a ways off, you can see what's the course, what's the direction, and because there's only so much time to avoid something. But yeah, we do see those. I get calls on that all the time. If you think of down there in Baldwin County, the amount of traffic that you have from Alabama Pass to the Florida waters to up into Perdido Bay, it's a ton of traffic, and many instances of where things can go wrong, and that's why it's so important to be aware, to be safe. because a capsized boat, getting flipped into the water or something like that could lead to terrible injury.
I talked with Desi Tobias with Tobias and Comer Law for Law 251, and you mentioned the busy waterways, and some weekends are much more busy than others. And something we've kind of talked about in the past, if you're a first-time or novice boater, usually getting out on the Memorial Day weekends, the Independence Day weekends, for your first ride or first few drives out there, maybe not the best thing to do. And I know one of the tips you have on TobiasComerLaw.com is take a boating safety course. If you haven't taken one before, or maybe you haven't been driving a boat in decades and you're getting back out there, those are things that can really help you out.
They can, and just my own recollection, I remember we got a boat when I was a young kid, and my dad and I went to, it was like one night a week for I don't know how many weeks, but it was at Murphy High School, and I still remember some of the things that we learned there. And of course, if you're going to get a vessel license as part of your driver license, there's a class that you need to take or a test that you need to pass. But just knowing how to operate the boat, if I hadn't been in a boat for a while, sometimes you hit forward when you mean to hit reverse. It can lead. You need to be familiar with it. It can lead to a certain circumstances you don't want.
Right. Yeah, and another thing too, as far as these tips go, is letting somebody who's staying at home or staying on land know your plan, right? File that float plan, and also check the weather. As simple as that sounds, there's people that go out and have no idea they're about to run right into a storm.
Yeah, the weather, it's such a significant example of that was the Dauphin Island race 7 or 8, 9 years ago, where that really was people talk back and forth about what happened, but it really came up so suddenly it was hard to expect. And you see, when you're out like that, what can happen. Just last summer in Fairhope, there was a shrimp boat that flipped over, and it was had a certain name like the Independence or something like that, if you remember. But that was capsized at the Fly Creek off of Fairhope Yacht Club for quite a while. But it was just a circumstance of what can happen when that weather comes up suddenly. And, a squall or whatever, sometimes you can't even predict that. It's much more significant than what it may appear. So, yeah, always be careful for that. And that's why you need to want to have people know where you are. You're not back. Where did you go? It's there's many stories that I've heard through the years of people clinging, to the bottom of a boat for gosh knows how long in the bay, and that's to make sure that doesn't happen. And keep that in mind.
Yeah, and to kind of give a little peace of mind to whoever you left back home too, that they at least know the general vicinity that you will be in or when you're expected back. So this list, and the list is up at TobiasComerLaw.com. Just a quick kind of checklist to make sure you're ready to go for getting out on the water, and also those great Aaliyah Marine videos, Marine Patrol with Brian, walking you through what happens when they board your vessel and want to get some information and check you out. So those videos are great too.